We also agree that Zimbabwe's international isolation must now be removed. This international isolation is not benefiting the people of Zimbabwe. Rather, it is benefiting the very people targeted by the sanctions. Ladies and gentlemen, if you go to Borodale, if you go to Glenlord, if you go to Mount Pleasant Heights, and all those rich suburbs, you will see buildings, new buildings being constructed, sometimes by the very people that the sanctions are supposed to target. We believe that sanctions, as things stand, give a ready explanation for people to explain away their incompetence. They also, unfortunately, lead to opaqueness in our systems. People smuggle gold on the basis that they are sanction busting. So that excuse must be removed. However, there are a lot of things that we do not agree that we are either in the SONA or not in the SONA. Although the president talked about growth of 7.8%, this growth is not inclusive growth. This is growth that the common man and the common woman are not feeling. So we want inclusive growth that will be enjoyed and felt by all the Zimbabwean people, especially the poor. We are mindful of the fact that 49% of the Zimbabwean people live below the poverty datum line. Therefore, we want inclusive growth. Although the government is saying that inflation has stabilized, the exchange rate have stabilized, on the ground, empirical evidence shows that inflation is going up and that the exchange rate is very, very unstable. While the president talked of the auction rate, we know that besides the auction rate, which is the official rate, we do have the parallel market. And this parallel market is driving up inflation. And we were told by the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission that the parallel rate, exchange rate, is being driven by the big wigs. To that end, we want the government to tackle corruption more seriously. The plunder of our national resources must be harnessed forthwith. We hear from the economists that $3 billion, United States dollars, are being lost in Zimbabwe to illicit financial flows. The Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission has given a figure to date of 1.8 billion being lost as a result of corruption. And according to the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, this is being done by the big wigs. So we call upon President Mnangagwa and the government to rein in on these culprits, to bring to book these criminals. These criminals are economic saboteurs and they are sabotaging the people of Zimbabwe. They are shortchanging the poor and the downtrodden. Although the young farmers are up and coming, they need to be supported. And to that end, we call upon the government to give these young emerging farmers access to credit. What we have also noticed is that these young farmers are predominantly male. We want a mechanism to encourage the girl child to go into farming as well. But we want these farmers to be incubated. We want them to be supported. We want them to have access to credit, access to subsidized inputs. We are happy to note that tobacco has brought in $589 million as foreign currency in this country. That is very good, but we think that more should be done. Therefore, we call upon the government to attract investment into value addition. We also demand that there must be fair, timeless, and efficient payment for the farmers. As you know, ladies and gentlemen, farmers, after supplying their tobacco, have problems in accessing their money. Zimbabwe remains bedeviled by high levels of unemployment. Most of our school leavers are unemployed. Therefore, we must address the problem of unemployment. This is something that we did not see in the president's speech. Although Zimbabwe's economy is growing on paper, that is, we have not seen fair distribution of economic resources. So we demand fair distribution of economic resources. Another phenomenon that has emerged is the displacement of Zimbabweans by new coming investors. Now, that is an issue that is worrying us. Before any Zimbabwean is displaced from their land, there must be viable alternatives put in place. Alternatives which will make sure that people who have been displaced get enough housing, enough amenities like schools, hospitals, and so on before they are moved out of their land. There also must be compensation, adequate and fair compensation for these people deprived of their land. And we want the government to deal with that. We also think that there must be a stimulus package that must be given to those companies, especially the small companies affected by COVID-19. We were told that the government has set aside 18 billion. We want to see this 18 billion at work. We want to see small business people being helped. The women, the people who are in the informal sector have to be helped by this stimulus package. And it has to be made to all the Zimbabweans, irrespective of political opinion and so on. We agree that we must promote the buy local campaign. We also saw that in his legislative agenda, the president calls for a number of statutory interventions, legislation, including the private volunteer organization. Here, we want the government to enact laws that protect and promote civil society, and so that civil society organizations are free to do their work, are free to exercise oversight, are free to criticize the government or government-related institutions without any hindrance. We call upon freedoms to be extended to civil society, and that this civil society must be strengthened. The remuneration of our workers remains a great source of worry for us as a social democratic party. And this is more pronounced, I think, for civil servants. Their salaries are below the poverty datum line. And already we have been told that the total consumption poverty line in Zimbabwe is over $6,000. This has to be redressed. We want the government to pay attention to promotion of the women's issues, especially the involvement of women in the political, social, and economic life of Zimbabwe. As I said, ladies and gentlemen, the MDC remains committed to dialogue. All the things that I have said here can be resolved through dialogue. These cannot be resolved by the government alone. This must be resolved by the government, civil society, business, labor, and the political parties, whether they are in parliament or outside parliament. That is why the MDC-T has called for electoral reforms.